We're going to destroy the Online Safety Act. Meet the top lawyer waging war on Ofcom. Oh, dude, let's go. Did any of you think going into this that 4chan might be the true savior of free speech?
They were trying to bully American citizens. They're threatening them with fines. They're threatening them with imprisonment. Ofcom started sending stupid letters to American companies in February of this year. $10 million per threat. So in 4chan's case, 6 letters, 6 threats.
Dude, the gall of the UK to try and sue an American company for breaking their laws, their draconian speech laws.
That's $60 million. Ofcom attempted to assert its authority over 4chan, and 4chan told Ofcom to go to hell. The sending of these letters and the purporting to have authority over American speech was a grave threat to American civil liberties, and I was given the mandate and instructions to wage war on the Online Safety Act and destroy it, and that is what we are in the process of doing.
Bingo, bango, bongo, you'll love to see. For those of y'all that don't know who this guy is, I didn't know who he was either. Now, I haven't seen this video yet, obviously this is a reaction, but I did do a little, like cursory, Google searching right beforehand just to figure it out. So dude on the right, dude with the glasses, is an actual lawyer. This is the dude who is going to take the UK to task.
Preston Byrne, thank you for joining us on the Guido Show. Could you just start by explaining why we're here? Because what is really going on with 4chan, you guys, and Ofcom?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a broader thing than just 4chan. Basically, the United Kingdom's Office for Communications, Ofcom, started sending stupid letters to American companies in February of this year. I was instructed to represent every single one of those.
Why does this dude look like every single cast member from the Daily Wire all rolled into one?
Recipients of those stupid letters, and my mandate was to essentially, I mean, these letters aren't enforceable in the United States, right? Ofcom has to go over and domesticate them here, and that's never going to happen because of the First Amendment. And so my clients retain me. I'm working pro bono, and the mandate, of course, because there's not really a whole lot to defend. It's just that
he's working pro bono. I guess we know he's not Jewish.
They send the letters, we ignore them. Was that we recognize that the sending of these letters and the purporting to have authority over American speech was a grave threat to American civil liberties. And I was given the mandate and instructions to wage war on the Online Safety Act and destroy it. And that
use that sort of rhetoric, bro. Use it. This is a war. We call this a culture war. We talk about the culture war. Guys, the culture war ain't just about pointing out ugly broads in fucking video games, right? Don't get me wrong. That's a component of it. It's a very noticeable thing. But no, the actual culture war is the war on the American culture that is, first and foremost, free speech. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Censorship, absolutely a problem. We need to address censorship. And censorship comes in many forms. Censoring, again, like I said, attractive broads in video gaming. But at the core of this, it comes down to what you can and can't say, and bowing and kowtowing to these world governments that think that they can oppress you with something as major as your right to speak. So yes, waging war is actually a very appropriate terminology. This is a war on the fundamental basics of our American civilization.
That is what we are in the process of doing.
So with 4chan specifically, they were fined £20,000 this year by Ofcom via the Online Safety Act almost as soon as it was implemented. And Ofcom, or rather 4chan, are refusing to pay. I understand that. So where are we with that? You're still in the midst of that battle as well, specifically.
It shouldn't really be a battle. It shouldn't be a battle. How are you going to enforce it? How are you going to enforce it? Like, short of the UK sending some armed folk to the the 4chan headquarters to collect some payment, how are you going to enforce this? And by the way, the last couple of times, actually, because people forget about the War of 1812, the UK decided to try and, try some shit over here in our homeland. Didn't work out too well for them.
I mean, it's not really a battle. Ofcom attempted to assert, it's not really a battle. Ofcom attempted to assert its authority over 4chan, and 4chan told Ofcom to go to hell. And so Ofcom is going through its own internal procedure, rather like a game of, kabuki theater, where it's play acting to have the ability to enforce this law against American citizens. And we're just kind of, I mean, I sent them a Pepe meme yesterday in response to one of their emails.
We are living in a society where a lawyer sent a British political agency a Pepe meme as a response, as a go fuck yourself. Dude, look, I know we got a lot going on in the world right now. I know we got people, fucking brown people blowing each other up in the Middle East and shit. I know we got the left, cutting the cock off a 12-year-old little Timmy or whatnot because he likes to play with Barbies or whatever. But I still think we live in the best timeline.
We're just having fun at this point. We're doing it for the lulz. And we're also doing it because we're caught every time an Ofcom communication crosses the American border, within 60 minutes of transmission, right? It's in my inbox. I usually receive it. And then within 5 minutes of my having completed a review, it's in a dozen government inboxes at state and federal level here in the United States. So every time Ofcom does something, it's immediately visible at multiple levels of American state and federal government. And so please send more. You're making the case. Ofcom really is making, honestly, send more. Send as many emails as you want. Because what Ofcom is doing is they're trying to bully American citizens. They're threatening them with fines. They're threatening them with imprisonment. We have been really clear. And until very, very recently, we were fairly professional about it. But now it's just getting so ridiculous that we're responding with memes.
You don't need to be professional about it. It's nice that you started off professional, but you didn't need to start off professional. Yeah, this is the UK we're talking about. These are the Brits. We don't care. You have no say over here. Fix your fucking teeth, learn to pronounce the letter R, and shut the fuck up and let us speak the way we want to speak. Don't you guys got an infestation of Muslim grooming gangs coming after your 9-year-old little girls over there in your country? How about you worry about that than whether or not, people over here in America make fun of your fat politicians for being fat?
That we've been really clear that this stuff isn't enforceable here. If Ofcom wants to have a discussion about enforcing an Online Safety Act fine, there's a really easy way for them to do this. They can go use an international service convention, service properly, bring a case in a U.S. court, try to enforce the fine domestically, and then we'll have a conversation in front of a U.S. judge. And
that conversation will go, ha ha, throw that bitch out of here, you dirty fucking Brits.
Do that, right? So what we had to, because it's a giant intimidation racket, and so what we did is we dragged them into court in DC, kicking and screaming, and we said, okay, if you won't come over here and do this properly, we'll drag you over here and we'll make you talk about it. So where we are is that there's a lawsuit in DC that's not going to be dispositive on the outcome of this dispute, which is really in the hands of Congress and the states. So Ofcom continues to send their letters, and we continue to use those letters as political ammunition here in the United States to agitate for legislative reform.
And they argue that they're protected by sovereign.
Hey, shout out Yarnwich! Thank you so much for the raid, girly.
What are they how are they counteracting this?
I don't want to get into too much nitty-gritty on the litigation because it's still live.
Yep.
But we've asserted that they're not entitled to sovereign immunity. They are. They've asserted that they are. They'll make their arguments. We'll make, as they're entitled to do. We'll make our arguments as we're entitled to do. I think politically, it's certainly interesting that Ofcom, which purports to be...
Yeah, they're entitled to it. Sure, they're entitled to make their argument. Just like you're entitled to come up to me and say, Leon, I'm hungry. All right, you're entitled to say that. Don't mean I gotta make you a fucking sandwich. Why do I look like a woman?
An independent regulator and all this jazz comes over to America and says, the First Amendment doesn't protect your...
And I get that I've got really long hair, but that doesn't mean I look like a woman. Just clarifying.
Clients, and doesn't protect Americans from us, but it certainly protects us from Americans, right? The U.S. Constitution protects us, but it doesn't protect you. And so really there's a lesson for our politicians there. I think our politicians have received the message, but as to the litigation itself, they'll make their arguments, we'll make our arguments, and we'll see, the federal courts are plenty backed up after the government shutdown, so maybe a judge will rule on it in 6 months.
And the Online Safety Act, this is just
4chan. If any of y'all 4chan users, as an ex-4chan user myself, if any of y'all are watching, in that 6 months, give them hell. Don't stop. Make it even worse. Like, again, we're living in the timeline where 4chan, the folk that get their kicks, that for jollies, convince people that putting, duct taping, this is a real thing they did on 4chan, and I'm not fucking condoning this, by the way, don't anyone try this, but told people to wrap duct tape in about 6 to 7 layers around your, silverware, a spoon, for example, hold that spoon over a hot stove to superheat it, and then run it under cold water, a cold running faucet, and then basically set it up as if it was a science experiment and that something cool will happen. Yeah, the cool thing that will happen, guys, is you basically just made a fucking silverware shrapnel grenade that is now duct taped to your fucking hand. It is immensely dangerous. The point is, people on 4chan get their kicks trying to hurt other motherfuckers for fun, for the lulz. 4chan's a wild fucking place, guys. However, they are literally fighting for the true and ultimate free speech here in America. That is the timeline we live in. It is kind of amazing.
Killing free speech in the UK, right? What are your thoughts on this overall? I can guess what you're going to say, but
How do you mean?
What are you feeling over in the US? Are you guys looking at this act with aghast and thinking the British have gone mad?
You know, we're gonna when we're done fortifying our own perimeter, we're gonna come over to England and we're gonna sort that out too. There are forces in both the conservative and reform movements that are looking very seriously at reforming UK free speech law, and those are the guys who really need to be the standard bearers. I've written some proposals, but there are lots of free speech activists, and I think there's a new, really resurgence of traditional civil libertarian thinking in both of those parties. Which I think once Labor's out of power, right? You can't come too soon, but I think once they're out of power, I think we're going to see some significant free speech reform.
Are they even wilder than the Kiwis? Are you asking if 4chan goes harder than Kiwi Farms? Yes and no. 4chan and Kiwi Farms kind of equal, but their goals are different. So 4chan will go after anyone, right? 4chan will go after anyone for the lulz, just like randos. Kiwi Farms, I would say, goes harder, but Kiwi Farms focuses on high profile, and not even high profile, but even moderate profile internet personalities. So Kiwi Farms is a specific target type of folk that they go after. They go after them harder though. 4chan maybe not necessarily always goes as hard, but casts a much wider net.
Regardless of who's elected, unless the Greens get in which case, just get out of the country.
Well, yeah, we're all in trouble then, aren't we?
Yeah, we're all in trouble.
Next? What comes next in the battle?
So the battle really, what I think Ofcom in London don't get, and I think hopefully they will get it after this conversation, is that the venue moved from London to Washington, D.C. in July. So Peter Kyle ran around. He did this big national TV push. He went on Newsnight and said, we have the power to shut down any platform. And I made sure that my buddies...
They don't, by the way. They do not have that power. They do within their own country, sure. Not over here, bitch.
In the federal government saw that, and that really steeled our resolve, right, in the targets of the UK and of Ofcom to prove them wrong and say, no, you don't have the power to shut down an American platform. So what comes next? We've introduced a bill, or not introduced, we've filed, a state legislator has filed a bill in Wyoming, which I like to, it's called the Granite Act. Granite, as in the rock, that stands for Guaranteeing Rights Against Novel International Tyranny and Extortion. So it's a...
Now, to be fair, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge we got our own problems over here when it comes to censorship and online safety bills. Our own version of what they've got going on in the UK. Obviously, we all know what's going down in Texas, which is a complete unconstitutional catastrophe. So it's not to say the US is perfect. Frankly, I feel like we got to focus our efforts here as well in shutting that shit down. But we also got to make an example of them fucking Brits over there that try and think they can do that for us. So really, it's a war on two fronts. It's a war against them over there across the pond that think they can tell us how to use our fucking free speech. And it's a war, here on the homeland, here on the home front about, why are our own governments, local, state, city, whatever, what have you, also trying to censor and destroy free speech here on the internet. Not just on the internet, really in general. So mind you, US ain't perfect. I do feel like I should go ahead and acknowledge that.
A little acronym. And that is what I call it's a pro-free speech Death Star of a law. What it does is it says that U.S. Yeah, it's a Death Star. So if we enact this in the United States, and even really in only one state, it'll be very, very damaging to the USA. But if we get federal companion legislation, then it'll be fatal to the USA. And what that does is it says that U.S. state entities and government entities can't cooperate with censorship requests, that those censorship demands are not enforceable on U.S. soil, and critically, that sovereign immunity is.
I don't know why we need a bill for that. I'm pretty sure that's pretty obviously already laid out by our fucking Constitution. You know, the whole shall not be infringed. I guess shall not be infringed, technically the Second Amendment. But, you know, the Second Amendment is there to protect the First Amendment. What do we need a bill for? We already have the goddamn Constitution. Maybe there's a reason for it. Again, I ain't a liar. I ain't a fucking legal scholar. So I'm sure there's a reason for it, but y'all know how I feel about governments and bills and all the extra red tape and shit. Any new law, is often just used as a way to make things harder and worse for the working class, for the regular individual. Stuff that politicians are going to skirt. Even if they're good in theory, they're going to end up bad in practice. You get someone in office who is going to find a way to exploit that or use a loophole. So again, I don't necessarily know if the Granite Act is a good thing or why it's even being implemented, but let's just take this, at face value for this.
Stripped for any foreign entity, state, agency, or individual, and they are jointly and severally liable for titanic quantities of damages if they attempt to send one of these censorship notices in the United States. The draft that has been filed says that it's either treble actual damages, the greater of, treble actual damages, $10 million per threat, so in 4chan's case, 6 letters, 6 threats, $60 million, or treble the quantity of the maximum fine. So in Facebook's case, for example, Meta, if they communicated a 10% global revenue fine, their global revenues are $164 billion. So that would be a 30% fine, which is about $49 billion in damages,
Jesus
which is roughly equal
Christ.
to the amount of sovereign assets the United Kingdom holds.
Dude, and imagine... Hold on. Imagine, let's use his X example, right? Let's use his X example. Pretty great now that, Elon put that thing into place that shows where these accounts are connected from. Dude, the amount of Chinese and Israel and Brazilian and just basically all these foreign propagandists coming in and saying ridiculous shit, posing as Americans. Imagine if, you got some Chinese or Israeli account posing as an American, saying ridiculous shit. The UK, finds X or whatever on behalf of, thinking that it's an American account. In all reality, it was just a way to weaken our infrastructure because we've got these foreign agents posing as Americans. So, this is something that could have been easily exploited and still technically could potentially be exploited because people on the internet pose as Americans anyway. So, yeah, this goes well beyond. I really like his X argument because this goes well beyond, 4chan, for example.
American banks. So if they want to toy with that, if we can get something like that enacted, the Granite Act, at state level, it'll be very, very damaging because companies will be able to reincorporate in that state and then raise the shield. But if we get federal action on this as well, and we're optimistic that the states leading this effort will prompt federal action, although there certainly hasn't been any federal action yet. If we can do that, then it's over, right? And we're not just, to be clear about what our objective is here, we are not simply saying, oh no, our position is that Americans don't have to comply with the Online Safety Act, and we will allow this conduct to continue. The objective of what we have been doing for the last 6 months is the complete and utter destruction of the Online Safety Act as an instrument of British government policy. Able to harm Americans, and we want to take that ability away. And the way we take it away is by enacting very clear and express censorship shields, and by ensuring that any country, Australia, UK, Singapore, New Zealand, Canada, France, Belgium, Germany, whoever, that attempts this in future.
All lesser countries. Everyone he just listed, lesser country. Why are they lesser country? Because they ain't America.
Will not be able to touch the U.S. financial system without risking a major asset seizure order, right? They've been running around threatening us with fines and asset seizures. Okay, now it's our turn.
All right, so is the Death Star laser, is that going to tilt and pivot towards...
Death Star laser, bro! Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's got a little chubby, right? She heard space laser, she's like, oh shit, where? She got a little bit excited.
Ofcom itself, you're going to blast through the Online Safety Act, but Ofcom themselves, are you coming for them as well?
So the Death Star laser is expressed to apply jointly and severally to the foreign state, any agency which carries out the censorship on behalf of the foreign state, and any individual working at that agency who collaborates with it. So it's a joint and several liability term. It's not specifically targeting Ofcom, right? It's specifically targeting, in future. We don't do ex post facto law in the United States, unlike the UK, which can do retroactive law under its constitution. But in the US, we aren't allowed to do that. So the idea would be whatever, Ofcom's done to date, that's water under the bridge. But going forward, right, we want to erect a shield. And if you try to get through that shield, the laser is going to be pointed at you. And you're not going to need to wait for the State Department, and you're not going to need to wait for the Congress.
I love the Death Star analogy. Why? Because the UK is trying to take away free speech for Alderaan reasons.
Or anything else, we want to put that laser in the hands of the most powerful force on earth, apart from compound interest, the American plaintiffs bar. And so the American trial lawyers. And we think that would be a very significant deterrent to any future censorship inbound to the United States. So this law is, if it has not been introduced in Wyoming, or not introduced, filed, obviously there's a whole process that the bill would need to go through. It'd need to make it through committee. It'd need to get introduced. It's been filed or will be filed very shortly in Wyoming. Currently waiting for confirmation on that. We are moving towards filing an identical bill in the state of New Hampshire. Copies of that legislation have been provided to the relevant staffers in various federal agencies for their consideration, and we're hoping that the rapid movement of state action to do this, and we've got all kinds of censorship problems. They've just tried to hail Julian Grant before Congress to testify.
Okay, he says we've got all kinds of censorship problems. I assume he means here in the U.S. Good. I'm glad he's acknowledging that.
By December the 2nd. So there are a lot of different censorship regimes, and our objective has always been this entire time the complete and total destruction of them all. And I think with filing bills like this, we're well on our way to accomplishing that.
Yeah, I don't know that filing bills like this is going to help. I mean, like I said, the whole idea is that our Constitution is supposed to protect this shit, right? Our Constitution out the gate, it's already supposed to protect free speech. So the idea that just introducing another bill at the state level will somehow miraculously get this to go away. No, these forces in charge, what you call them, New World Order, World Economic Forum, Illuminati, One World Government, whatever you want to say, these forces in charge, some of which are absolutely embedded here in the U.S. as well. It's not just Israel, it's not just China, it's not just Russia, it's not just all these other countries. They're working here within the bowels of the deep state in America. They're going to do anything and everything they can to attempt to take away our free speech and our rights as individuals here in the U.S. So I don't see how just enacting another bill, even if it's at the state level, will actually fix it. But I'm glad that there are at least people who are acknowledging it, doing what they can to fight against it, if this guy is to be trusted. I say if he's to be trusted, because, at the end of the day, he is a lawyer. And how do you know that a lawyer is lying? His lips are moving. So, needless to say, take it with a grain of salt, but at least, in theory, what he's saying is good. Also, shout out, thank you so much for the 99-cent super sticker, Piranha Pout. Truly appreciate you.
What's the mood, I wonder? I haven't seen too much agitation from the White House over this. I mean, you see Starmer and Trump appear to have a kind of cozy-ish transactional relationship, but do you see this becoming a bigger problem and it getting on the White House's radar at any point, particularly as you escalate this action?
I know nothing other than what has been reported in outlets like the Daily Telegraph. I barely even know the White House exists. Couldn't even find it on a map. So I know nothing other than what's been publicly reported. What has been publicly reported is that they were. And I can understand why. Apparently, this is a massive trade headache with Europe. There was Cloudflare, which runs the entire internet, as anyone who tried to use Wix yesterday found out. Wrote a really compelling letter to the U.S. Trade Representative, which is an executive office agency, and they explained all the problems they've got with various censorship regimes from all around the world, basically trying to meddle with their business and what a compliance headache it is, and how things used to be so much better when America just was the hyperpower and everyone stopped trying to regulate us.
Yeah, but okay, let's say this and let's extrapolate this further. All right, sure. We got lots of other lots of other countries trying to flex their censorship muscles, trying to say what you can and can't say, what you can and can't do on the internet, and that's all well and good. You keep lining them up, we'll keep knocking them down. That being said, how does this affect the almighty dollar, right? What about these payment processors that we've seen that are forcing and enacting all sorts of censorship on American properties, American businesses, like, say, for example, Steam. We've seen a massive influx of censorship on Steam, which was a very heavily anti-censorship platform for the longest time. Like, are you still going to bow and kowtow to the payment processors? Because lest you forget, we talked about this on stream months ago. We went through all the politicians that Visa, MasterCard, these payment processing companies donated to. It wasn't just on one side of the aisle. They donated to both the left and the right. Why do they donate to both the left and the right? Because you want both sides of the uniparty in your fucking pocket so they do what they want you to do. So yeah, at the end of the day, you got payment processors, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, the list goes on, that are notably more powerful than any single first world government because they're the global payment processors for the world over. Are you gonna actually try and take them to task? Don't get me wrong. Again, I like where this is going. I like the idea of taking on the UK, saying fuck you for your attempted censorship. But I want you to put your money where your mouth is and see if you can actually go over the people that are funding the politicians. See if they're A-okay with that money drying up.
So I think there's a lot of appetite, certainly from industry in the United States. There's appetite from individuals in the United States who are censored under the Biden administration. The reporting has indicated that the White House certainly regards this as a primary concern. And part of the thing we're doing with the states is we're trying to give the White House some options, right? Demonstrate. Listen, there's an option that takes this off your plate, right, and just lets American trial lawyers handle it. So if the Europeans complain about it, it's like, oh, we're really sorry. All those crazy,
It shouldn't be on the White House's plate to begin with. I can't stress this enough, and I'm going to keep stressing it, right? This shouldn't be on the White House's plate. Why? Because whether it be Trump or whoever's in charge, Democrat, Republican, whatnot, the point is, this is a foreign government. This is a foreign country trying to tell private American companies what they can and can't say. The White House's default response should be, go fuck yourself. That's simple. I don't get, I'm not a liar. Maybe there's a lot more red tape and shit that I'm just not aware of because I'm just a dude that talks to a fucking webcam on the internet. I'm kind of a big dumb guy like that. Needless to say, though, I don't see the point of this. To me, this should be very easy for whatever side's in charge to tell the UK, or any country for that matter, yo, this is our country. You don't like it, fucking bounce.
Of guns in Congress enacted the silly rule, and you got to go deal with Quinn Emanuel now. Anytime you want to serve a censorship notice on X, we're really sorry, but we can't. Those pesky lawyers, we don't like them either. President Trump really doesn't like him. Elon doesn't like him, etc. That kind of jazz.
Yeah.
But we're trying to create an option here for the government to get this issue off its plate, so they can focus on the business of making America great again.
Lovely. Well, Preston, best of luck to you. Thanks for joining us on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep, that was a good video. Quite enjoyed that. I'm going to link it in the chat for you guys. I'm glad to see that something's being done about this. At least it seems like something's being done about this. Hopefully it's not all just for optics' sake. Again, there's some language in there that I'm not particularly fond of. Again, I don't like the idea of enacting new laws when our Constitution should, kind of cover this shit by default. But at the end of the day, if the UK wants to try and flex their censorship muscles, then we're going to tell them what we need to tell them. If it means we got to take it to some sort of court, then that's what we're going to do. I love the irony. You've got this lawyer working pro bono for 4chan. And again, say what you want about 4chan. You can love them, you can hate them. They're kind of a cesspool, and I mean that with all the love in the world. Again, as an ex-4chaner myself. But yeah, no, 4chan, let's be real, they got themselves a bit of a reputation on the internet, and they got that reputation for a reason. That being said, hey, if it's them, drawing the line on the front lines of the free speech movement, of defending our God-given rights, shit, that's all you gotta say, homie. I'm in. Sign me up. These are my opinions. Some of yours in the comments down below. Let me know on X. You can find me about the word, and please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. Not always about what's going on with internet censorship, but anime, movies, music, Magic Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon and become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord. Choose the articles we go over on a day-to-day basis. Choose the videos to react to on the daily streams, and of course get involved with over 250 other vital idols. We are a bright, beautiful, glowing, vibrant community that I cannot wait to grow even further, because we do care about diversity. Only one kind of diversity. Diversity of thought. That's interesting to you. Join the Discord, hit subscribe, and until next time, it's all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.